Hello, my royal lovelies. Welcome back to the channel, and of course, welcome to my home. We're going to be talking about a lot of things of Prince Harry and that court case in a moment. The win. We'll dissect the win in a moment. But first of all, I want to start this video with an apology. Yes, I made a very terrible and grave mistake that was brought to my attention. And unlike the monsters of Montecito, I am free and willing to admit when I was wrong and apologise to you, the viewer, who I have most definitely wronged with my false and misleading information. So the false and misleading information of which I pertain, which I speak, is actually that Castle Grayskull was actually the home of He-Man, the goodie, in the Masters of the Universe series. And I totally got that wrong. So thank you to whoever pointed that out. Castle Grayskull was actually the home of the goodies. But do not fear, because the actual home of Skeletor is even more juicy. Can you believe it? So the actual home of Skeletor, this gets even better. I'm quite glad I was wrong. Snake Mountain. Yes, Skeletor and his cronies reside at Snake Mountain. So we are now going to upgrade Castle Grayskull for the Montecito monsters to now Snake Mountain. I think it's rather apt, don't you think? So I was quite glad that I was wrong. Anyway, moving on to this court case saga. So we know that Prince Harry took a very different route to his brother Prince William when it came to the phone, or rather trying to reach a settlement or an apology from the Daily Mail group. And he settled out of court, had a substantial damages package, which was rumoured to be up to round about £1 million, and a private apology. So that was on the advice of Her late Majesty, who was very, very savvy in these cases. And I think she was very, very wise as well to make that stance. So the Queen was not averse to William and Harry, seeking damages, seeking an apology. She gave her permission to do that years later, because obviously she'd done, the Queen or her people the palace had done a bit of a deal to kind of say, well, okay, once everything's been dealt with, or most of it's been dealt with, then we can discuss damages and a private apology for the wrongs that we suffered. So there's no doubt in my mind that the Daily Mail and news reporters at that time were into phone hacking. It's pretty much been proven. So that was not ever the issue. I think where the Queen played a bit of a blinder with that deal was the fact that it safeguarded the dignity of the royal family, because Her late Majesty knew, quite rightly, that if things came out at a trial, it would basically corroborate the stories. Because what you're saying is, okay, this story is true because they phone hacked it, or they had sort of, really bad reporting practices. So you're kind of, again, it's the never complain, never explain. And it was supposed to protect the royal family and their dignity, but also get damages and get a private apology. William was happy with that, and like I said, potentially had up to about £1 million. Harry took a very different route. He wanted a public apology. He wanted public retribution. And in doing so, at attending the trial, he basically admitted that all of these stories that perhaps people in their minds thought, well, is it true? Is it not true? He actually basically came out and said, yeah, it's true. So he lost some of his dignity. Anyway, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, the ruling came out, and Harry won part of it. It's not as big a win as what Harry may think it is, although I suspect he probably already knows what it is. And certainly not like what the squaddies are pertaining it to be. It is not a landmark, landslide victory at all. Far from it, as we will discuss in a moment. So Prince Harry, I'm reading from an article, he was awarded £140,000 from the Mirror's publisher after a High Court ruled that he was the victim of phone hacking between 2003 and 2009. Again, it's not something that really I don't think was ever in dispute. But it needed to be sort of, I suppose, legally proven. And by the way, I am not condoning phone hacking at all. I definitely think it was a bad practice that should not have happened and should not happen in the future. So his case was proved in part, said Mr. Justice Fancourt. Journalists at the Sunday Mirror, the People and the Daily Mirror had unlawfully obtained Harry's private information for news stories, he found. He ruled the Duke's phone was probably, you have to use the word probably, hacked to a modest extent on occasions between 2003 and 2009. Let's look at that again. Probably. So, does he know that it was or does it not? Probably is not really a word, I don't think, that should be used in court rulings. Probably is not a definite, is it? To a modest extent. So certainly not in the way that, Harry was pertaining it to be. I definitely don't think it was as bad as what Harry suspected it. The landmark case concluded at the High Court after a 7-week trial over the summer, at which Harry became the first senior royal in over 100 years to testify. And part of it was thrown out, and Harry had to pay costs of £50,000. So take that off the 140, and you're not looking as much as what people might like you to think that he had. So in a statement from the Duke read outside court by his lawyer, David Sherborne, Harry said it was a great day for truth as well as accountability. Well, most of his case was kind of found not to be there. Okay, so Harry put out a statement saying, "I've been told that slaying dragons will get you burned, but in light of today's victory and the importance of doing what is needed for a free and honest press, it's a worthwhile price to pay," Prince Harry's statement said. He also called on the police and prosecuting authorities to investigate bringing charges against the company and those who have broken the law. In a statement, the Met Police said it would carefully consider the civil judgment handed down today at the High Court. There is no ongoing investigation. Right, so Harry had his day in court. He did partially get what he wanted, but it wasn't the big, massive victory that he hoped it would be. It definitely wasn't this kind of landslide victory. I think on the balance of looking at how William dealt with it and how Harry dealt with it, I think the dignity aspect of it is far more outweighs the public retribution and the very damaging, stories that were corroborated during Prince Harry's, testimonies and all of this, and evidence giving. I think Prince Harry has actually lost a lot more than the small amount that he has financially gained from it. I mean, if anything, by the time you take off lawyers' costs and all the rest of it, he probably is at a loss from this. So it's definitely retribution that he's been going for. It's the kind of story of the past 3 years of his life. It's been damaging. PR-wise, it's been damaging, along with Oprah, along with Spare, along with the Netflix documentary. Everything's been very, very badly managed PR, including this, and he might be citing it as this kind of big victory, but it definitely is not. I should also say, in a response, the Mirror Group newspaper's spokeswoman said it welcomed the judgment, which gave the business clarity to move forward from events that took place many years ago. Where historical wrongdoing took place, we apologise unreservedly, have taken full responsibility and paid appropriate compensation. So there we go. I mean, basically, the earth has not stopped moving, has it? Prince Harry and Meghan, may have got, well, Prince Harry has got a little bit of retribution, but nobody is thinking any worse of anything. It's kind of something that we all knew. We all knew the phone hacking went on. That's why the whole scandal erupted in the first place. I think it was it round about 2008 when the phone hacking scandal came out. I forget the year. But it certainly it hasn't sent big ripples and big waves. And I only think, well, Harry needs to ask himself, was all of this actually worth it? He could have settled privately, the same that William did, and have kept his dignity and had a much larger settlement with no costs, no costs involved. Instead, we had this massive pantomime performance from Harry, who looked like he gleefully enjoyed his time in court. They should be known as the Duke and Duchess of legal action, shouldn't they? But it's not doing them any good, it's not doing them any favours, and they most certainly are not winning with PR. Obviously, shortly after, the Sussexes released their Christmas card, again, not featuring the children. So yeah, that kind of... It was... I mean, I think Harry kind of saw releasing the Christmas card as a bit of a I've won my court case and therefore I'm now going to say Happy Christmas to everybody. It just fell a little bit flat. And it's very, very similar to the one they sent out the previous year. Nothing really much going on with it. It came across as being very corporate, I think. It's the kind of thing that you would send out in an email to your colleagues or in your work practice. So I think we will talk about the Christmas cards, all the royal Christmas cards, in an upcoming video, because I really want to dissect the Wales's Christmas card, because there was a few little things I want to mention about that. Okay, so next in this video, I want to talk about claims that the Duchess of Edinburgh is furious about Omid Scobie's claims she didn't make an effort to support Meghan when she was struggling in the firm, sources claim. So the Duchess of Edinburgh, of course, we're talking Sophie. Furious. Well, I would be too if words were being said about me. So the cheerleader claims in Endgame, although it's Endgame for Harry and Meghan and for the cheerleader, one suspects, published last month, claims that Sophie did little to help Meghan when she was struggling to adjust to life in the firm. Elsewhere in the book, he labels both Sophie and Edward as appearing casually bigoted in reference to an interview they conducted after Meghan claimed members of the royal family had raised concerns about Archie's skin tone. They told The Sun the opposite of the cheerleader's claims are true, and that Sophie, in fact, went out of her way to make Meghan feel included and welcome. Friends close to the Duchess of Edinburgh insisted Sophie invited Meghan and Harry over for tea early on in their relationship to try and form a bond with her. Very interesting. An insider described as a senior royal source, so, as we know, some of these sources are now quite accurate and true. So somebody very, very close to the Duchess of Edinburgh has given the go-ahead for this. It was just the two of them, and they talked for hours. Oh my goodness, poor Sophie. Imagine talking to Meghan for hours, listening to that drivel. Anyway, droning on. Meghan had so many questions, and Sophie, who knows what it's like navigating your way through the early days of transition from a commoner to a royal, gave freely her advice. The source added that Sophie found Meghan engaging and told her she could call any time. Well, that does not sound like not paying her any attention. How much attention did Meghan want? Did she want a fanfare every time she walked in the room? Maybe she has one at Snake Mountain. Maybe there's fanfares piped into every room. Maybe it was made by Archibald Audio. I reckon they have fanfares piped through all the rooms in Snake Mountain. She was quite surprised that was the last she heard from Meghan. Oh, this is classic Meghan all over, isn't it? Get what you want, use somebody, and then drop them like a sack of potatoes. Yes, Meghan got what she wanted from Sophie, and then she moved on. When there was no more blood left to suck, she moved on. Story of her life, isn't it? Endgame took aim at several members of the firm, as we know, blah, blah, blah. And he also accused Edward and Sophie of a royal screw-up because of their reaction to Harry and Meghan's Oprah interview. So they said in their first TV interview post-Oprah, they jokingly said, "Oprah who?" And what interview, when quizzed on whether they watched Harry and Meghan's interview. They said, if you're not into chat shows, there's no reason why you should know who she is, certainly not in this country anyway, Sophie said of the US chat show host. But Omid, of course, claimed that it was stuffy or tin-eared at best and casually bigoted at worst. He said Sophie's Oprah gaffe is yet another page to add to the history of recent screw-ups. Well, it wasn't a screw-up. They were having a joke. Something big had happened. There was a big controversy. They were obviously asked in an interview and they made light of it. It's called a sense of humour. Something that I think Harry and Meghan have had bypassed. I think their sense of humour has slipped as low as Meghan's halo, practically around her ankles. Make of that what you will. Oh, by the way, people were saying, when I was saying in the previous video that Meghan was a self-made woman, what I mean is that she came to the table with X amount of money. What I wasn't pertaining to was how she was a self-made woman. And a lot of people quite rightly pointed out that Meghan kind of climbed the social ladder and the career ladder with the help of a lot of people. And just what I spoke about now, this kind of using of people, the using of Sophie. Get what she wants, suck her dry, and then discard. The carcasses of Meghan are piling up and flailing around her in her wake as she goes. So yes, Meghan was self-made, but she made it by sort of using people and like rungs on a ladder. You can imagine her monster claws pressing on people's faces as she climbs this ladder. Claw marks left in their faces, discarded in her wake of ambition. She wanted ambition and power and money. And she thinks that she got it all. Well, again, I hope it was worth it, because she's not speaking to her father now. She's cut Harry off basically from his family through their dastardly deeds and wicked words that they put out there. So yes, I wasn't pertaining to the fact that she'd done it all by herself. We all know that she's stepped on people along the way. Mostly men. Funny that, isn't it? Maybe she should have kept her deal or no deal box firmly shut. Maybe that would have helped her more. Anyway, I stand by Sophie. Sophie helped Meghan as much as she could. She offered to help further. Meghan discarded her. And who drew the short straw when it came to Her late Majesty's funeral? Driving back up the hill in the car was Sophie with Meghan. So if Sophie was, abandoning Meghan or not wanting to speak to her or slighting her in any way, why was Sophie in the car with Meghan. Now, Sophie didn't look very happy to be in the car with Meghan. I think definitely things had soured between the two at that point. Possibly because, well, Meghan had ditched Sophie, dumped her. So, you know, I think somebody had to sit in the car. Personally, I'd have sent the car with Meghan by herself, but somebody had to sit in the car with Meghan, and poor Sophie. I remember thinking at the time, poor Sophie, having to put up with that. Anyway, she drew the short straw, but she was a trooper, and she carried on and she did it. So good on Sophie for that. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. Plenty more to come in upcoming videos. So thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to share on social media. And of course, do hit that bell so that you know whenever I upload a new video. And of course, don't go wandering into Snake Mountain. Mwah to you all, and goodbye.